Since Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator in Buffalo, the Bills' offense has gradually evolved from a downfield aerial attack to a more balanced offensive approach that spreads the ball around. You could see Brady's vision from day one. When he started calling plays in November 2023, the Bills immediately stopped force-feeding Stephon Diggs and started to deploy more diverse personnel packages. 2 years later, from team building to play calling, Buffalo has embraced an everybody-eats philosophy. And they're rolling. Through 3 weeks, the Bills lead the league in yards per game. They're one of only 2 teams to score 30 in all 3 games, and one of only 3 teams without a turnover. Back before Brady took over, the Bills employed a shotgun-heavy downfield passing approach that has its advantages, but allows defenses to sit in 2 high safety shells and disguise their coverages. Defenses played soft zone and turned Josh Allen into captain checkdown against his will. Now, in 2025, the Bills' offense is more multiple than ever. And that diversity has allowed them to force defenses out of their comfort zone, rather than the other way around. Take a look at this play from back in Week 1 against Baltimore. Buffalo deploys 22 personnel, which means that there are 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and 1 receiver on the field. That's a heavy package, and to avoid mismatches, defenses tend to match size with size by deploying a heavy package themselves. But that's not what Baltimore does here. They stay in nickel with 5 defensive backs on the field and sit in a 2 high safety shell. This is the effect that Josh Allen has on defenses. Everything about the Bills formation here suggests that they're running the ball, but the Ravens defense responds like the Bills are going to throw. So, to take what the defense gives them, Joe Brady does run the ball. He calls zone toss lead with motion at the snap, which tells the guys up front to zone block to the right as Ty Johnson receives the toss from Allen. The Bills personnel group is too heavy for the defense to handle, and the run goes for 7 yards. Now, before I move on here, I need you to watch 6th round rookie tight end Jackson Haw because he mauls Marlon Humphrey on the front side of this run. Haw has made more of an impact on this offense than any of their other offseason additions. Last year, when the Bills wanted to go heavy to get the defense into base or just to run it down their throats, they would send out an extra offensive lineman. But now, with Haw, they don't have to do that. He's such a good run blocker that they can get into their heavy formations and rely on him to block like an offensive lineman would without losing a receiving threat. Defenses are much more comfortable matching 13 or 22 personnel with base personnel when the extra tight end is really an offensive lineman than when the extra tight end is a real receiving threat. So when the Bills come out in heavy 1 receiver sets, defenses are often going to stay in nickel, and when they do, Buffalo can just run it down their throats. That makes Haws a game changer. 6 plays later on that same drive, Buffalo again deployed 22 personnel, and this time Baltimore replaced a defensive back with a linebacker to deploy base personnel with 4 defensive backs, matching size with size. But they still sat in a 2 high shell, so Joe Brady called the same play. The splits are slightly different, but the design is the same. It's a zone scheme toss with a lead blocker in motion at the snap, and the run goes for 7 yards. A couple punts and a missed field goal for the Bills allowed the Ravens to get a big lead, so Buffalo couldn't run the ball that much for most of the second half of this game. But after Derrick Henry's fumble in the 4th quarter, the Bills were within 1 score, and they went right back to heavy personnel on the first play of that drive. It's 13 personnel, meaning 1 running back, 3 tight ends, and 1 receiver. Baltimore responds with heavy base personnel, and this time they stack the box with a single high safety shell. Buffalo also gets a zone coverage indicator out wide with the wide corner lined up over the tight end. So they know that Baltimore is almost certainly in cover 3 here. The heavy personnel got the defense to show their hand, and that allowed Josh Allen to take a shot. The concept calls for a swing route into the flat from James Cook, an out and up from Dawson Knox out wide, and a seam route from Jackson Haw. Post-snap, the swing holds the hook curl linebacker down, so Allen rips the seam shot to Haw for a gain of 29 yards. Part of why this approach works is because Joe Brady is content with going back to the same play twice or 3 times, sometimes in succession, if the defense doesn't make a sufficient adjustment, just like you or I would if we were playing Madden. We saw it the following week in New York multiple times. Here, it's 1st and 10, and Buffalo deploys 13 personnel with 1 running back and 3 tight ends on the field. Buffalo calls wide zone weak with a backside insert block from the tight end out wide. Post-snap, the backside combo block between Spencer Brown and Osiris Torrance gets tons of vertical push on the 3-technique defensive tackle, and the run goes for 7 yards. Despite going into base personnel and bringing a safety into the box, New York can't stop the run. On the very next play, Buffalo went right back to the same call from the same personnel group and the exact same formation, even down to the splits. New York makes an adjustment here by calling a run stunt between the nose tackle and the Mike linebacker, which tells the nose to take the backside A-gap and the Mike to take the frontside A-gap. Cook makes a quick cut when the Mike shoots his gap and gets to the second level. Osiris Torrance got away with a block in the back here, but this is what can happen when the defense feels like they can't stop a specific run design. They try to compensate by calling a stunt, and they end up shooting themselves in the foot. Bills beat reporter Sal Capaccio asked Joe Brady about that two-play sequence in Brady's press conference after the Week 2 game against New York. Here's what Coach Brady had to say.
It looked like a sequence where James scored. Maybe it was even the same play twice in a row. I'm sure there's a nuance in there, but maybe not. No. Okay, so is that, take me into that. Is that like, hey, it's working, let's go? Is it something you philosophically think, hey, this is something going into a game you might want to lean on a little bit? How does that go?
Yeah, I'm not always going to repeat plays, but there's nothing wrong with repeating plays, right? If it's not broken, you don't have to fix it. And look, there's always going to come a point when it's like, okay, but if we don't feel like there's an adjustment being made, or we feel like, hey, even we know what the potential next adjustment is, or let's make them make the adjustments in drive. Why wait till we get to the sideline to come back to the play? Let's stay with it. And so, we've shown both in the run in the past that we'll continue to run the same play, or making sure we have the nuances or whatever the next where it looks like that, and be able to get to the next thing. And so.
Brady talked about forcing defenses to make an adjustment mid-drive by going back to the same play immediately rather than allowing them to adjust in between drives on the sideline. And that applies not only to the defensive response to Brady's calls, but also to Brady's calls themselves. He made an adjustment on the fly between plays in a short yardage situation earlier in that same game against the Jets. Here, it's 3rd and 2, and Buffalo calls duo, with Khalil Shakir inserting in the C-gap on the front side. Buffalo called this play from 11 personnel, which allowed the Jets to stay light with nickel personnel and deploy a 5-man front with a stacked box. This is not a favorable look for this run play. The box safety, Tony Adams, is not accounted for in the blocking scheme. So post-snap, he makes the tackle to bring up 4th and 1. On the 4th down play that followed, Buffalo went right back to that duo call. But this time, they did it from heavy 13 personnel, with 1 running back and 3 tight ends, one of whom is an offensive lineman. This time, New York can't stack the box because Buffalo's formation is too heavy. To do so, they'd have to bring the wide corner in, which would make them vulnerable to play action. Post-snap, Dawson Knox inserts in the C-gap, all defenders in the box are accounted for, and Ray Davis follows Knox to pick up 4 yards on 4th and 1. Brady also talked about getting to the next variation of a play call, using a previous call to set up another one. And those 2 plays you just saw from Week 2 against the Jets set this one up in Week 3 against Miami. It's another short yardage situation, 3rd and 2, about halfway through the second quarter, and Buffalo deploys 11 personnel. Just like New York did on their 3rd down against 11 personnel, Miami stays light with nickel and stacks the box. The pre-snap shift from Tyrell Shavers tells Buffalo that Miami is in man coverage, which is important because this call is all about forcing a missed assignment. After the shift, Shavers sets up right behind Dawson Knox, which makes it look like he's going to insert in the C-gap. And he does a great job of selling the fake insert post-snap. Shavers takes a step inside as Allen fakes the handoff to Ray Davis, and the defensive back responsible for Shavers bites hard on the fake. That gets him wide open in the flat, and Buffalo picks up a gain of 17 yards. Like Brady said in his press conference, this stuff applies to the pass too. When a given concept beats a given coverage, Buffalo is going to go back to that concept when the defense shows a similar look. It happened in Week 1 against the Ravens in dramatic fashion. Here, it's 1st down, and Buffalo's down 15 with 5 minutes left in regulation, so they can't mess around with heavy personnel. They have no choice but to throw. Pre-snap, Allen identifies man coverage and checks to this concept. It tells the strong side number 1, Josh Palmer, to run a corner route, and the number 2, Dalton Kincaid, to run a 10-yard out route. Because of the tight splits here, Palmer's route generates a pick on the man responsible for Kincaid, and Allen hits Kincaid on time to pick up 11 yards. A couple drives later, Buffalo faced 2nd down from their own 34-yard line with just 53 seconds on the clock. They need a big play to get into field goal range, and they get the exact same look as you saw in the last play. Allen IDs the man coverage and sends Dawson Knox in motion to the field side of the formation. Post-snap, Palmer's route again forces the man responsible for the tight end to work through traffic. And Dawson Knox is open, but Allen knows that because the inside corner was beat, the wide corner will try to overcompensate. So he pump fakes to Knox, then layers it over the wide corner to Palmer on the corner route for a gain of 32 yards that put Buffalo in range of a game-winning field goal. Now, I don't mean to suggest that this is anything new or unique. Every good offensive play caller goes back to successful plays. But nobody right now is doing it to this extent. The game script early on will have a variety of calls, but when Buffalo finds something that works, they're going to stick to it. And that makes the Bills' offense really difficult to game plan for, because you can't predict what they're going to emphasize until it's too late. 2 years ago, going into every Bills game, you knew they were going to push the ball downfield. You knew Stephon Diggs was going to get 10 targets. But now, they might call wide zone from 13 personnel over and over again like they did against the Jets, or zone tosses from 22 personnel like they did against Baltimore. And even when you think you have it figured out, Joe Brady will throw a changeup featuring a 6th round rookie tight end you've never heard of to exploit your adjustment. There will be hiccups with this team, there always are. I'm sure they'll drop a couple games in the regular season. But Josh Allen has never had this much help. We just watched the Bills put up 30 points in back-to-back games without requiring Allen to make a single play. He still made plays, because he's Josh Allen, can't really help himself, but he didn't need to. It's not the Josh Allen show in Buffalo anymore, unless it absolutely needs to be. On this team, everybody eats. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, I'd be so grateful if you showed some support for the channel by subscribing. That way you won't miss next week's video. Topic TBD. But that's all I've got for now, so until next time, take care.